Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nastiki. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 7. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janyatya Shuvairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahetukam. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janyatya Shuvairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahetukam. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janyatya Shuvairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahetukam. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janyatya Shuvairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahetukam. Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Jnanam Chayad. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of God at Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Please repeat the translation. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of God at Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Purport. Those who consider devotional service to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna to be something like material emotional affairs may argue that in the revealed scriptures, sacrifice, charity, austerity, knowledge, mystic powers, and similar other processes of transcendental realization are recommended. According to them, bhakti or the devotional service of the Lord is meant for those who cannot perform the high-grade activities. Generally, it is said that the bhakti cult is meant for the Shudras, Vaishyas, and the less intelligent women class. But that is not the actual fact. The bhakti cult is the topmost of all transcendental activities, and therefore it is simultaneously sublime and easy. It is sublime for the pure devotees who are serious about getting in contact with the Supreme Lord, and it is easy for the neophytes who are just on the threshold of the house of bhakti. To achieve the contact of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Sri Krishna is a great science, and it is open for all living beings, including the Shudras, Vaishyas, women, and even those lower than the low-born Shudras. So what to speak of the high-class men like the qualified Brahmanas and the great self-realized kings? The other high-grade activities designated as sacrifice, charity, austerity, etc. are all corollary factors following the pure and scientific bhakti cult. The principles of knowledge and detachment are two important factors on the path of transcendental realization. The whole spiritual process leads to perfect knowledge of everything material and spiritual. And the results of such perfect knowledge are that one becomes detached from material affection and becomes attached to the spiritual activities. Becoming detached from material things does not mean becoming inert altogether. As men with a poor fund of knowledge think, Nash karma means not undertaking activities that will produce good or bad effects. Negation does not mean negation of the positive. Negation of the non-essential does not meant negation of the essentials. Similarly, detachment from material forms does not mean nullifying the positive form. The bhakti cult is meant for realization of the positive form. When the positive form is realized, the negative forms are automatically eliminated. Therefore, with the development of the bhakti cult, with the application of positive service to the positive form, one naturally becomes detached from inferior things and he becomes attached to the superior things. Similarly, the bhakti cult, being the supermost occupation of the living being, leads him out of material sense enjoyment. That is the sign of a pure devotee. He is not a fool, nor is he engaged in the inferior energies, nor does he have any material values. This is not possible by dry reasoning. It actually happens with the grace of the Almighty. In conclusion, one who is a pure devotee has all other good qualities, namely knowledge, detachment, etc. But one who has only knowledge or detachment is not necessarily well acquainted with the principles of the bhakti cult. Bhakti is the supermost occupation of the human being. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanachalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Nidinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Bracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Bhashya Dadeshadarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Jai Srila Prabhupada. So this is also another important verse that has been quoted many times by Srila Prabhupada. So this verse says, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha. Anyone who is Prayojit. Prayojit means one who is engaged. In what? In Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha. Someone who is engaged in Bhakti Yoga. What Bhakti Yoga? Who is Bhakti? Vasudeva, the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is Bhagavati, who is the personality of Godhead. So Vasudeva, who is Krishna, Vasudeva Bhagavati, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. Anybody is engaged in his Bhakti Yoga, in devotional service, then what happens? Janiyati. Janiyati means it produces, it generates. If somebody is engaged in Bhakti Yoga, it will generate what? And it will generate when? Ashu. Ashu means very soon. So very soon it will generate two things. Vairagyam, Jnanam. Automatically the Vairagya will come, detachment and the knowledge. So this is the effect of engaging in the devotional service. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So this is the check, this is the test. Somebody is engaged nicely in the seva, then two things will happen. Knowledge will come and also detachment from the world. Right. So this is what is the devotional service. So what is that knowledge? What knowledge will come when we engage in devotional service? transcendental knowledge. And what is that knowledge? Actually, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says this famous verse, Nahi jnanena sadrasham. Which gyan, which knowledge? The knowledge of this transcendental knowledge, knowledge of devotional service, knowledge about ourselves, knowledge about our relationship with God, knowledge about the nature of this material world, the knowledge about the sense gratification that everybody does in this material world with the idea that that will make us happy. All this knowledge. So Krishna says, Nahi jnanena sadrasham. There's nothing so sublime and pure. Nahi sadrasham. Nothing is equal, sublime and pure like this jnana. Nahi jnanena sadrasham pavitram iha vidyate. There's nothing equal to this knowledge. Nothing is sublime, nothing is pure than this knowledge. The knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. Tat swayam yoga samsiddhi kale natmani vindati. So this knowledge is actually, it's not something ordinary. This is the mature fruit of all mysticism. And one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. So this is the knowledge. So Prabhupada writes in the purport here, when we speak of transcendental knowledge, we do so in terms of spiritual understanding. As such, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Ignorance is the cause of our bondage, and knowledge is the cause of our liberation. So this knowledge is so important because our cause of bondage in this material world is ignorance. Knowledge is the cause of our liberation. This knowledge is the mature fruit of devotional service. And when one is situated in transcendental knowledge, he need not search for peace elsewhere, for he enjoys peace within himself. So this is what this knowledge will come. And then Prabhupada is writing here, this knowledge is the mature fruit of devotional service. So it is not some kind of intellectual exercise. And okay, let me read all the books. Let me learn the language. If I learn the Sanskrit and I'm very intelligent, I'll use my logic and then I'll get all this knowledge. No, one cannot get this knowledge like this. This knowledge is the byproduct of Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. It's a byproduct of Seva, devotional service. It cannot be achieved, it cannot be attained by any other means. By our intellectual pursuits, we cannot have this knowledge. We can have the information. There's a difference between the knowledge and the information. If somebody is very, very intelligent, very sharp, he'll read some book, say Bhagavatam, and is very sharp, he'll remember this story, that story, first canto, Parikshit Maharaj, second canto, creation, third canto, Devuti Kardama, they're talking like this, and he will remember everything. But that is not knowledge. That is information. Information is easy. Knowledge is different. So knowledge comes only as a byproduct of devotional service. And what is that knowledge? Now we already, because we all are engaged in devotional service, so we all have that knowledge. And what is that knowledge we have? The knowledge is about our real identity. Jivera Swarup hoy, Nitya Krishna Das. This is knowledge. We might have heard like 1,000 times or more. So sometimes we take it for granted. But to understand this, Jivera Swarup hoy, Nitya Krishna Das, that our constitutional position is, we are servants of Krishna. And when you say, I am servant of Krishna, then immediately your action should be serving Krishna. This is knowledge. So engaged in the seva of the Lord, it's knowledge. That this is what is my constitutional position, to serve Krishna. And that is only thing that will make me happy and satisfied. There's nothing in this material world that can make me happy. This is knowledge. So we have a lot of ideas or upbringing or conditioning. If you get a lot of money, if you get this, if you get that, the gross things when we are not devotees. These are the ideas. To become happy means some power, some position, some money, all of those things. When we become devotees, then we try to understand and we understand, start understanding. So we don't aspire for gross things, but then the subtle things. If I get this position, I become the leader, then I'll be happy. And that is what is the real progress of my spiritual life. That is also ignorance. Knowledge means just engaged in the service of the Lord and just be happy with that. Right. Prabhupada, he wrote a letter to this one devotee. His name was Subal. So in the very beginning years, that time there was only 2-3 temples. One was in New York, another one was in San Francisco, and one more temple was opened, I think, in Montreal. So there are only very few. It was in like 1967, around that time, just 2 years. And then Prabhupada was also got like paralyzed attack. He was very sick. His health was not good, and then Prabhupada has to go back to India. So Prabhupada went to India, and all these devotees, they were wondering like, oh, without Prabhupada, how will survive? What will happen? And all of that. But they're like so attached, they wanted to do something for Prabhupada, they want to please Prabhupada. So when Prabhupada was in India, they started opening new centers here. And they're writing to Prabhupada that we opened one more center, like that. And then Prabhupada was very, very happy, and they were asking Prabhupada, when you will come back? Prabhupada says, soon I'll come back. But somehow that thing was not working out. Prabhupada, as soon as he went to India, in just few days he started recovering. So he became better in his health. But then to come back, it was getting delayed because Prabhupada's visa, it was taking time to get the visa. And then somehow, Prabhupada get the visa. And then they booked the ticket in some time, like in October or sometime. But then there was some strike, some Bengal Bandh or something like that. So then again, the ticket also got cancelled, and these devotees were eagerly waiting while he was writing. So one of the devotees, this Subal, he opened a center and he wrote. So he took a very beautiful house somewhere in outskirt of the city, and very beautiful location and all that, and very peaceful. And it's a very nice place for a temple. But then soon he started realizing that not many people are coming there. So the place is nice, beautiful, little outskirt, peaceful, but people were not coming there. So a little concerned. And then he was thinking what to do. I'm like, we have opened the center and nothing is happening here, no preaching. So he thought it's a failure. My attempt is a failure. So he was a little disappointed. He wrote to Prabhupada that Prabhupada, it's a failure, this project, nothing is working. And then Prabhupada replies. So Prabhupada writes a letter to this Subal. Prabhupada says that my Guru Maharaj, he never wanted to open a center in outskirt. He always preferred to open the centers where a lot of people are there. There's a lot of crowd is there in the mid of the cities. Because generally idea is ashram, temple, it should be out of the city, out of the crowd, the city's noise and all that. Prabhupada is saying that my Guru Maharaj always wanted to open the centers in the mid of the cities where a lot of people are there. Right. So like that, Prabhupada first explained the mood. So there's no need of, thinking of going outskirt and all that. And then Prabhupada also writes in that letter that if somebody is engaged in the service of the Lord, that itself is a success. One should not think like people think for the material activities. If you get the results, that is considered a success. And if you don't get the results, it's a failure. So don't think. So Prabhupada was encouraging this Subal and his wife also. So he said, both of you, husband and wife, sit tightly and chant Hare Krishna and hear attentively. Don't worry if somebody comes or doesn't come. That is not the criteria of our success. Right. So this is the perspective. This is the knowledge that, through Prabhupada's teachings, Prabhupada purports we get. We think I'll be happy only if I do something, I get the results. That is what is my happiness should be. Or I do sense gratification. That is what is my happiness. Satisfy the senses. More and more facilities to enjoy the senses. That is what is and the happiness. But then we understand this very famous verse that Prabhupada quotes, that how much ever we try to satisfy our senses, it will result in frustration. We cannot be happy by that. And it is confirmed by this quotation. This verse is a beautiful verse which says, Kamadinam katina katidha balita durnideshas tesham jatmai na karuna na trapano pushantihi Usrajjaitanadayadupate sampratam labda buddhis Tvamayatha sharanam abhayam Mamne yukshvat madashe. So what this verse says, Kamadinam katina katidha palita durnidesha. So this devotee is praying to the Lord. Oh my Lord, there is no limit to the unwanted orders of the lusty desires. Kamadinam. The lusty desires, katina katidha. There's no limit. They just keep ordering. I want this, I want more and more and more. Palita durnidesha. I've been palita, pal raha hu. I've been maintaining all these lusty desires. I've been working hard to satisfy all these desires. Durnidesha. I have rendered so much service. But what happens? Tesham jatmai na karuna. But the nature of these desires are like this. Tesham jatmai, they're not shown any mercy, na karuna. They just show mercy. Oh, he has been satisfying us so much. Now leave this poor guy. They just keep demanding more and more. This is the nature of these material desires. Right? Na karuna, na trapa. And despite all my endeavors, they're never satisfied. You try to satisfy little one desire, more desire will come. You do more, it will generate more. Like that. So they're not shown any mercy to me. And now pushanti hi. And there's no shanti by serving them. So I've rendered them so much service, they have not shown any mercy to me. I have not been ashamed to serve them, nor have I ever desired to give them up. So this is the situation this devotee is saying. But what happens? Usrajjaitan. Etan, all these desires now, all these lusty desires, usrajja. Now I have given up all those desires. How he has given up? Ata yadupate sampratam labd buddhis. So saying, O my Lord, O Yadupati, head of the Yadu dynasty, recently, however, my intelligence has been awakened. Labd buddhi. I got some buddhi, some knowledge has come now. And as soon as this knowledge has come, I immediately given up all these desires. Saying, I am giving them up due to transcendental intelligence. I now refuse to obey the unwanted orders of these desires. And then what I am doing? Tvam ayata sharanam abhayam. And now I come to you to surrender myself at your fearless lotus feet. Mam niyungsha atmadashe. Kindly engage me in your personal service and save me. This is knowledge. So what is happening? He is saying, due to transcendental intelligence, I now refuse to obey the unwanted orders of these desires. That is very difficult to give up these desires unless we get this knowledge. And this knowledge comes as soon as we start engaging ourselves in Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha. When we sincerely engage ourselves in the Bhakti, Vasudeva Bhagavati, then this knowledge will come. And when this knowledge will come, then we can easily give up on these desires. So this is what is this knowledge. And this knowledge, automatically when knowledge comes, then it is followed by detachment. Vairagyam, Jnanam. So when you are already in knowledge, then you will get detached. Like here this verse is. Now this verse, when I was reading that verse, it is very interesting actually. This verse is repeated in the Bhagavatam multiple times. Almost verbatim. Same verse, again and again it is coming. I'll tell that another verse, which is in the third canto, it is quoted. Same verse, almost. Just one word is changed. So what is that verse is saying? Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janyati asu vairagyam jnanam yad brahma darshanam. This one last word is changed. Same verse again and repeated in the Bhagavatam. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. It will generate Janyati asu vairagyam jnanam and also Brahma darshanam. Brahma darshanam refers to self-realization. So this process of devotional service, it results in knowledge, detachment, and also self-realization. Realizing the self, Jivera Swarup Hoy, Nitya Krishnan Das. Those who are very eager to advance in transcendental knowledge can engage themselves in pure devotional service without wasting time in mental speculation. Right. So this is what happens when somebody is engaged in the devotional service. Prabhupada says in the purport that all the good qualities will generate in that person. What is that famous verse? Yashasya bhaktir bhagavadya kinchana sarvair gunas tatra samasate sura haro bhaktasya kado mahadgunat manorathe nasati dhavado vai. So somebody is engaged in the devotional service, in the service of the Lord. Sarvair gunas tatra samasate sura. All the great qualities will automatically develop. And Prabhupada writes in one of the purport, Prabhupada says, how all the good qualities will develop in a devotee, nobody can make out, nobody can figure out. But its effect, all the good qualities will develop in the devotee. And then Prabhupada gives the example of this hunter, Mrgari. And how this Mrgari, who was such a cruel hunter, he was deriving the pleasure in half killing the animals. That was the source of his joy. And once he got in touch with Narad Muni and he started practicing devotional service, chanting the holy name of the Lord, then later he became such a devotee that he was not even willing to step on a small ant. All the good qualities will automatically develop in the person who practices sincere devotional service. So all this Gyan and Vairagya, it will automatically, it will follow. Prabhupada, many times we might have heard that Prabhupada in the lectures, he says, look at this all young American boys and girls. They are very opulent. They have all the facilities. So much sense gratification they were into. But now they have given up everything. And I'm not even paying them anything. So this is the automatic byproduct of engaging in devotional service, that one just give up all kinds of sense gratification, all kinds of desires to enjoy senses. Like that. Right. And this is confirmed again in another famous verse. Yatpad pankaj palas vilasha bhaktya karma sayam grahitam udgratyanti shantaha tadvanno rikt madayo yadayo piruddha shotho ganastamaranam bhajavasudevam. So anybody who is engaged in Bhaj Vasudevam, who are always engaged in the service of the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord, can very easily overcome hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities. Yat pad pankaj palash vilash bhaktaya. So anybody who is engaged in what? Pad pankaj palash vilash. The lotus feet, the toes of the lotus feet of the Lord. Somebody is engaged, then what happens? Karma ashayan gratitam. This granthi, this hard knot of karma shayam, of this fruitive activities, udgratiyanti shantaha. He will immediately give up. That hard knot of the fruitive activities can easily one can overcome, and he become shantaha, becomes very peaceful. On the contrary, tadvana rikta matayo yatayo piruddha. There's another category of people, they are addressed here as rikta matayo. Who are these rikta matayo people? Any idea? Rikta matayo. Rikta means empty. Matayo, their mind is like empty. It is referred to the Jnanis and Yogis, those who are not attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, but they're trying to, by their own endeavor, they're trying to acquire the knowledge, understand and all that, but there's no attachment. So they simply struggle against the waves of desires. They are described in this verse as Rikta Matayo, which means devoid of devotional service. So these jnanis and yogis, those who are devoid of this devotional service, they can never have this knowledge. So there are three kinds of people: the jnanis, yogis, and bhaktas. They are all trying to overcome the influence of the modes of material nature. All of them attempt to overcome the influence of the senses, and now this influence of the senses is compared to the incessant waves of a river. The waves of a river flow incessantly, and it is very difficult to stop them. So all these desires, they are like the waves of a river, very difficult to stop. Similarly, the waves of the desire for material enjoyment are so strong that they cannot be stopped by any other process other than Bhakti Yoga. So then Prabhupada explains the bhaktas, the devotees, by their transcendental devotional service unto the lotus feet of the Lord, become so overwhelmed with transcendental bliss that automatically their desires for material enjoyment stop. This is very important. So it's not kind of artificial imposition. Oh, give up this desire, give up that desire. Don't do that. It will not last long. This artificial attempt to be detached from this desires, detached from sense enjoyment, artificial, it will not work. How it will work? When somebody engages in devotional service, then the devotee becomes overwhelmed with transcendental bliss. And so much bliss is there that there's no room, there's no scope for any other kind of sense enjoyment. So then it is very natural. But these jnanis and yogis, those who are not attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, they struggle against the waves of desire. So these desires for fruitive activities are very strongly rooted. But these roots, the trees of the desire, can be uprooted by devotional service, because Prabhupada explains now, it can be uprooted. How? Because devotional service employs superior desires. So how somebody becomes detached from all these material desires? Because by engaging in devotional service, he develops a lot of desires, but they are superior desires. So it is not artificial attempt to no desires, no nothing. It is actually you develop superior desires, and then there is no room for all the desires for sense gratification. Prabhupada gives one nice example, one nice analogy here. One example. I'll read this example. Hear attentively. It might be argued that the waves of a river are incessantly flowing and that they cannot be stopped, but the waves of the river flow toward the sea. When the tide comes over the river, it overwhelms the flowing of the river, and the river itself becomes overflooded, and the waves from the sea become more prominent than the waves from the river. So we understand this. Now Prabhupada, how it's relating with this understanding. Prabhupada saying, similarly, a devotee with intelligence plans so many things for the service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness that stagnant material desires become overflooded by the desire to serve the Lord. So this is the process. The devotee has so many desires to serve the Lord, then there is no desire left for sense enjoyment. Then automatically he is detached. So this is what this verse is saying. Janyati asu vairagyam jnanam. When jnana comes, Jivara Swarupa Nitya Krishna Das, I should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Let me serve. And then use his intelligence. And he figure out the different ways to serve Krishna. His intelligence so occupied in serving Krishna in so many ways is like overflooded desires. Then there is no desire for sense gratification. And Prabhupada quotes the example of Yamunacharya. What is that verse? Anybody remembers? Famous verse. Release English. Yada vadhi mama cheda Krishna padaravende Navanavarasadham nyudyatam ranthumazid tadavadhi batnari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukhavikara sustu nistavanam cha. So Vasudevanacharya is saying, Yadavadi mama chitta Krishna padara vindaye. From the time my chitta Krishna padara vindaye, my consciousness is absorbed in the lotus feet of Krishna. What is happening? Nava nava rasa dhamni. New rasa. Udyatam rantum asit. They're just rising in the heart. Newer and newer relish. And because of that, rasa is enjoying so much. Tadavadhi. From that time on, because he's already experiencing so much ras. Tadavadhi. But nari sangama smaryamane. If even a thought of nari sangame, that association with the opposite sex, even that smarana also comes, the thought also comes, then bhavati mukha vikara sustu nistivanam ja. My mouth turn and I spit at that and distaste and I spit on the thought itself. So all this desire, because we understand from the Bhagavatam that this attraction towards opposite sex, this desire to enjoy, is the strongest desire in this world. But if somebody who is engaged in Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti, then Nav Rasa Dham Nyudyatam Rantum Asit. So much rasa, so much pleasure one experiences that he just spit at the thought to enjoy that kind of pleasure. Right. So automatically this detachment comes. What is that verse that Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita? Just quick check Gita knowledge. The similar verse too, like what we quoted. Similar verse. Just to give you the hint, it is in the second chapter. Okay, give a little more hint. Higher taste. Vishya vinivartante niraharasya dehina raso varjam rasopyasya param drashtva nivartate. So this is the process. Artificially one cannot suppress all these desires, detachment. It is developing the higher taste. You give up the lower taste. Param drashtva nivartate. Right. So this is a very nice verse. This Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita. Janiyati asu vairagyam jnanam cha yad ahedukam. Janiyati asu vairagyam jnanam cha brahma darshanam. And interestingly, one more time this verse is repeated in the Bhagavatam. Same verse. Just one or two words are a little different. This is in the 4th canto. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Samahita. Prayojita Samahita. Similar word. Sadrichinena vairagyam jnanam cha janayeshyati. Sadrichinena means complete. Vairagyam jnanam cha janayeshyati. 3rd time it has been repeated in this verse. So it's a very interesting verse. Okay. So this is what is the process of Krishna consciousness when we nicely engage in devotional service, Jnana and Vairagya. Prabhupada says this Vairagya is one very, very important thing. If devotee doesn't develop the Vairagya, he cannot advance in his spiritual life. One has to develop the Vairagya. Now we have to carefully understand this Vairagya doesn't mean that we don't possess the things, we don't have the things. So Vairagya is not about not possessing the things, but things should not possess us. So we can have everything in the service of the Lord, we can engage that. And that is what is the Vairagya means. Or in other words, we can say that anything which does not foster Krishna consciousness, I am not interested in that. That is Vairagya. But anything which can be utilized in the service of Krishna, then I will utilize that. So we know that from Rupa Goswami, 2 kinds of Vairagya, Falgu Vairagya and Yukta Vairagya. So Yukta Vairagya is Nirbandhe Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagya Muchade. Everything should be utilized in the service of the Lord, but at the same time, Anasaktasya Vishyan Yatharam Upyanjida. One should remain detached from Anasakt Vishayan. That is Yukta Vairagya. But at the same time, utilize in the service of Krishna. And what is Falgu Vairagya? Prapanchakitaya Buddhya Harisambandhi Vastuna Mumukshuvi Parityago. If you don't see the things in this world in connection with Krishna and you artificially Mumukshuvi Parityago, you give up, that is Falgu Vairagya. Right? But this Vairagya is very, very important. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he met Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and then we know that how he was impersonalist earlier, but after meeting and conversing with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he turned into a devotee. And because he was already very scholarly, Jnani, practitioner, and now he became a devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he wrote 100 verses to glorify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Those verses, and then he presented to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Mahaprabhu, you are Krishna himself. He understood. So he says, Mahaprabhu, you are Krishna himself, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and I have written this in your glorification. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started reading. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read only 2 verses out of those 100 verses. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he was acting like a devotee, so he didn't want to listen his own glorification. Right. And here he just glorified Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in 100 verses. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read only 2 verses and he immediately understood that is glorifying me as the Supreme Lord Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately tore apart all that and he threw. He threw. So those 100 verses are not available now. But 2 verses are available. 2 verses are available which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read, and all the devotees with the rapt attention, they heard that and it imprinted in their heart. So rest of 98 verses Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tore apart and threw, but those 2 verses are still there. And those verses are quoted in Chaitanya Chandrika Natak, and it is quoted in our Chaitanya Charitamrita. So one of the verse, famous verse, some of you might be familiar with the verse, that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya glorifies Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that he has come to teach us something special. And what is that special? He says, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Sikcharthameka Purusha Purana Sri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradhari Kripam Budheryastam Aham Prapadye. So like that he glorified Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradhari, the Supreme Lord who has taken this Chaitanya Sharir, and please, Kripam Budher, he is the ocean of Kripa, mercy. Yastam Aham Prapadye, I bow down, I surrender to you. That Chaitanya Mahaprabhu who is Purusha Purana, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. And he has come here for Sikcharthakam, to educate us. Sikcharthakam. And what education he has come to give us? Vairagya Vidya, Nij Bhakti Yoga. So he has come to teach us this Vairagya Vidya and Nij Bhakti Yoga. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us real knowledge, his devotional service and detachment from whatever does not foster Krishna consciousness. He has descended because he is an ocean of transcendental mercy. Let me surrender unto his lotus feet. Let me take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who had descended in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us the knowledge of devotional service and Vairagya. So this is what is this Vairagya Vidya. So we should learn, we should practice this Vairagya Vidya by sincerely engaging ourselves in this devotional service. And we seriously engage, automatically the byproduct will be Jnanam and Vairagya. So this is also a test for all of us. We are not getting detached. Detached to what? Detached to my own ideas, my opinions, my, so many mine, me and mine. If I am not getting detached, then we are short-circuiting the process. Because here Bhagavatam is confirming, if somebody is engaged in Bhakti Yoga Prayojita, then Jnana and Vairagya will come. If this Vairagyam is not coming, then something is wrong with our practice. So we can check ourselves and then we take the guidance from more experienced devotees. That I still am so attached to some desires and some opinions, some ideas like that, some style. So we gradually learn to be detached from all of that. Because ultimately Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya. We have to give up all our ideas, all our opinions, and all of that. Sarva Dharman. Okay, so these are some of the thoughts on this verse. I'll pause here unless anybody has any quick question, any comment or clarification. Yes, bro.
So here what I understood that the principle is to engage yourself in devotional service
Okay, so the question is, apart from our assigned services, in our free time, if we are engaged in some different ways, try to learn more and grow more. So we might have our own ideas. So if there's something wrong in doing the things as per my own idea, something, there's nothing wrong. We should always just apply this lens. Lens is, does this help me to become more Krishna conscious? If you are confident that okay, if this service, engaging myself in this kind of things, will help me to become more Krishna conscious, and then we can go ahead. And if a result won't come, some input comes, some feedback comes, and then what to do? So the safe board is always, yes, you can have your own idea, but even better thing is we can run those ideas through someone who is more experienced to get second opinion, some inputs to do in a better way. Probably they can suggest you some better engagement than what you are thinking. That I have so much time, I can do this, I can do that. So just run through and they say, oh yeah, this is a good idea, do that. Or they might, why don't you do this? That will be a better thing for you to do, and like that. And then when you are engaged and some inputs come, some feedback comes, yes, take those feedbacks, try to improve. Unless somebody comes and say, hey, stop this, you are wasting time, energy, efforts, and everything. There's no point of doing. Then stop. Otherwise, you just keep learning, keep growing, and like that. These are my thoughts. Okay. So let's stop here. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank God, Premanande.